been well established at this point that we hold on to trauma within the body. And especially for women, we tend to hold a lot of not only trauma, but just tightness in general in our hip area. So in our hip flexors, in our glutes, in our upper hamstrings. And so a lot of times as we start to do hip flexor and glute kind of activating stretching exercise, sometimes not only can it feel uncomfortable, or can you just have a really good stretch there that can feel uncomfortable, sometimes it can actually bring up some emotions. So you may have done a pose in yoga that has just registered in your mind that I don't like that pose, or this pose is really uncomfortable for me. What it might actually be is that that pose is bringing up some type of sensation that is a little bit uncomfortable to you, and whether that be because it's just really tight and needs a lot of work to have a better range of motion there, or is it potentially somewhere where you hold trauma, and so when you're kind of getting into it and stretching into it, it feels uncomfortable. So what I would recommend is that as you go through this flow, if your brain says, oh, this is uncomfortable, instead of backing away from it or trying to kind of numb it out or think about something else, I want you to actually lean into that sensation. What is your body telling you? And remind yourself, you're okay, you're safe, you can get through this, and that you want to trust your body to tell you what's going on. So if it's sending you a sensation, it's probably letting you know that it wants you to pay attention to what's going on. So either there's something there that really needs to be released, or there's some sort of dialogue when you're activating that area that your body wants you to know about. So instead of numbing it out or focusing on something else, or even backing out of the pose, what I want you to do is move towards the discomfort. And the discomfort I'm talking about is, you'll know what I mean, it's just uncomfortable, it's something doesn't feel totally great, and it may not even be in the actual area you're stretching. So I've gone into happy baby or pigeon or other hip flexor kind of poses where I've had discomfort in my stomach and my heart. So it could be somewhere else that's actually being activated. So pay attention to that, lean into it, trust your body, and what you're going to use to get through it is your breath. You're going to use your breath as your anchor and use the inhalation to bring new air to wherever that sensation is. And if it feels like something that needs to be released, think about releasing that on the exhale. Let's begin. We'll do one side and then the other. So you're going to get in a tabletop position on all fours. Make sure hips are over knees, shoulders are over wrists. I like to turn my hands out a tiny bit, and you want a good amount of weight into the fingertips. And what you're going to do is we're going to start with the right side. So we're going to lift the right leg to the back. Your right leg is going to come to the side and down. Notice that my leg is basically parallel right here. I'm not turned out, I'm not turned down, I'm just parallel. Right like this. My toe is just going to touch the floor. I'm not sinking into it, I'm just basically tapping the toe, not a lot of weight there. Then I'm going to lift up, same kind of parallel position, and then I'm going to come to the back and my hip is going to roll down. So see how both of my hips right now are pointing down towards the mat. Then I'm going to bring my right toe to the back and diagonal. both hips still pointing down. Leg comes up again, to the back, and then to the side again. So let's do a few more of those. To the back, and to the side, to the back, and touch to the side. Lift, and bring your leg to the back. So both hips are pointing down. You're going to transition your weight to the back, like so. So bend your knee and transition the weight back. Put the right top of the foot down on the ground. And you're in kind of a modified pigeon here. So a normal pigeon would be that this shin is kind of out at a 45-degree or 90-degree angle. We're just going to stay here for a second. So we're going to lean forward and take a couple breaths. This may be an area where you feel a stretch or something coming up for you. As we stretch into this hip flexor here, but also we are stretching into the left hip flexor too. We're in a flexion, whereas here we're in an extension of the hip flexor. If you want it a little more, you can kind of lift the knee up here. Good. Then we're going to walk our fingers to the front, and we are going to lift and rotate our hip out. Good. So right now, our hips are both rotated out. You have a couple options here because we're going to stay here for a few breaths. You can put a block in front of you so that you have something to balance on. You can do one hand on the block. Of course, kind of holding here would be the full expression. Then the other option is, of course, if you've had a knee injury or that feels like too much on your knee, you're going to drop down and just sit on your bottom, on your butt, and bring this knee in. So just like this, and you'll breathe here for a few breaths. So modification with a block, full expression. Good. So take a couple deep breaths. Good. This is also another place where you can absolutely feel an uncomfortable sensation come up. If you do, try to breathe into it. Try to go towards the sensation and not away from it. Right hand comes down on the mat. Left arm comes out and is going to come over. Good. We're then going to come and turn our upper body towards our right knee and come over. Like I said, you can do all of this while sitting on your sit bones as a modification instead of being up on the knee. Good, and then we'll come up, and from here, we're going to release our foot. So we're actually going to come back like so. So from here, we're going to release this foot to the back. So we want to turn towards our front leg and put our butt down to the ground. So right leg is forward, left leg is behind, and you should already be feeling a really good stretch in the hip flexors here and the quad. A modification you can do is you can take a bolster or a block and actually put it underneath you. The other modification you can do is you can actually bend this front leg. That will take some of the pressure off of the hip flexors and the knee if you come to kind of this static position instead. If you want more from here, You can lean backwards. Can't really go any further because the wall is here, but the full expression could be dropping all the way down to the elbows or all the way to flat back. So we'll breathe here a couple of times. And again, this may be a place where you start to feel something I actually am right now. I'm feeling what I would label as maybe some frustration as I start to feel that this thigh really stretch and this hip flexor open up. I'm just gonna breathe it out, let it go. Good. Then we're going to take the left foot and bring it to the back of the mat, really, since we started facing the other direction. We're gonna stretch out our hamstrings now. We're going to reach up to the sky and over. And I would rather have you have a straighter, flatter back and only be able to touch, say, here, versus being able to touch all the way to the bottom of the feet, but be totally rounded like this. So you're gonna reach up and try to keep that flat back kind of there. You wanna reach forward from the lower back, from the base of your spine. Good. And then we can kind of curl up and reach up and come forward. Now you're going to bring your hands behind you, fingertips facing towards you. And you're going to lift your bottom up. And come back down. If that is difficult for you, you can always come here and just lift up here. So knees bent would be a great modification. Okay? And then from here, we're going to cross our right leg over our left, like so. And then we are going to twist to come back to tabletop, and we would do the other side. So let's now do the left side. So coming back to that tabletop, hips over knees, shoulders over wrists. Left leg comes up behind you, comes over to the side, leg is parallel. Lift, touch down to the back. Lift, touch down to the side, parallel. Lift, hips are both facing down towards the mat, and touch down and to the side, and then we'll lift to the back. From here, we want to transition the weight backwards, shift back, then drop the leg, and we will get a little bit of a hip flexor stretch here. So if this feels good to you, you can stay right here. The straighter you keep the back leg, the more of a stretch you'll get in the IT band. You can also play with coming down to your elbows and see how that feels. So we'll just stay here for one more breath. Good. Walking the hands to the front and then flipping our hip open. So now we're in this position again. So this right here would be the full expression. Putting a block underneath you is an option. And then of course, sitting all the way down would be another modification. You can always have your fingertips touching the ground, or if that is not available to you, use blocks so that you have extra balance here. So get into whatever is the full expression of the pose. We'll breathe together. remembering that sensations may come up, emotions may come up, something that you can't label as either that feels like something may come up. So try to lean into that instead of trying to push it away. Take some breaths into it. Remind yourself you're okay. Good. Left hand comes down in the mat. We bend over towards the left toes. Good. And then we rotate towards that left knee. And we come up. Good. So we're here. We're going to free this right foot behind us, like so. Now we settle down onto our mat. So, as on the other side, bending this knee takes a lot of pressure off of the thigh and the hip flexor. So that could be a modification. Another modification would be to put a bolster or block down. What you want to try to do as much as possible is open this right hip, external rotation, and try to have as much of your hip bone on the floor as possible. Because if you're just like this, you're not getting a good stretch. What gives you a good hip flexor and thigh stretch is external rotation. External. So then, if you want to, you could have arms back like so, elbows all the way back. Let's take a couple breaths here. Good. Coming up, and then we will take our right foot and bring it to the left. Reaching up and over, up and over, up and over. Good. Then we'll take our left leg over the right. We will come towards the side like this. You can feel, a really nice spine stretch right here. And then we're gonna walk it over a little bit more. And then we're gonna actually rotate back to our tabletop, right where we started. And then you can do the other side again. Notice that I am flipping my body right to left. That's because the wall is here. And so I have to do that. But in the full flow, you would just keep going, right, left, and keep coming back to your tabletop position.